seconds to go. Hurts. Deep shot. Hauled in. Devontae.
Sure. And before the press conferences even start. I mean, we could talk for 45 minutes just about how atrocious the defense is.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here, DSM Media. We're live, as always, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Smash that like button. Smash that share button. Retweet it out over there on Twitter, and make sure you head over to the YouTube page to get involved with the show. The easiest way, we can put your comments right up on the screen, like these examples that I'm putting up right now. It's the best way to get involved with the show. You hit the thumbs up there on YouTube. Hit subscribe, turn the notifications on because you never want to miss a minute of the action here on DSM Media in general, but also most specifically right here, Trending in the AM, like I said, every Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. I am your host, Phil Stiefel. As always, at Beard of Knowledge on Twitter. Make sure you give me a follow and interact with me on Twitter. And my partner, as always, Jason Voorhees at Mustaine3651, host of the Sports and Metal podcast and my partner on this show. What's up today, Jason? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Just a little frustrated from yesterday with all the Sixers stuff going on because my emotions keep going up and down every day.
We're going to get Freddie Defo. Hang in there. At some point today, I'm going to talk about the tweet I made last night. It is a grossly underrated flick. Absolutely. So we got lots to talk about. Again, some of it's going to be semi-repetitive. So I'm trying to find a different spin on the NBA trade deadline and the Sixers, James Harden rumor. So we're going to talk about that. More Super Bowl talk as we get another day closer to the big game. And yes, we are going to talk about, I was watching not the Olympics last night, not AEW Rampage or Dynamite or whatever the hell the wrestling show is called. I was watching a replay of the Fugitive movie last night, and we're going to get into that at the end of the show, middle of the show at some point. I think it's a grossly underrated flick. Absolutely. So we got lots to talk about. But I want to start with the Sixers. And I think the whole trend of tonight's show or this morning's show is going to be integrity. That's like kind of the topic there that I want to talk about. And, you know, the Sixers, the James Harden rumors, I mean, they've been going on now dating back to last year. You know, we were doing this, maybe not to the extent, but the up to the trade deadline, which is today at 3:00. Last year, the James Harden trade rumors were circling nonstop until he went to the Nets last season. So what I want to talk about and start the show with is the simple fact that you got Brian Windhorst. You've got a lot of reporters, you know, but ESPN has Brian Windhorst and Adrian Wojnarowski, two very well-respected guys, supposedly, in this business. Obviously, Woj and his Woj bombs are one of the most popular things, you know, and one of the most famous and respected voices. But how can two people that work at the same company have two such far different opinions or sources on what's going on today? I just don't get it. Because if you think about it, Adrian Wojnarowski is saying nonstop that it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You know, he's like, there is no talking going on. And then you got Brian Windhorst going on all the different ESPN shows saying the deal's almost done. They're in the finalizing process. You know, I interviewed Rob Motti over a year ago, and he talked about sources and having to make sure you vet your sources and not reveal the topics that your sources give you until you double check, triple check. You know, he talked about how he works for the Associated Press, that they don't reveal their sources, but he has to be able to tell his bosses who gave him that information, so that they know if they run with that story that it's a verified source. They don't have to say who the source was, but they need to know it's verified. So what's ESPN doing? Is ESPN just purposely, because they're an entertainment outlet more so than a media outlet, are they just purposely letting these guys throw random stories and saying sources at the wall, or are they actually checking these guys? Because there's no way you can have two different sources saying two completely opposite things.
Unless there's an agenda behind it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe the maybe using the word entertainment was the wrong thing. Maybe the agenda behind it, you know, is the thing.
Well, I believe that the agenda behind it is the agents. And I think we've talked about this quite often about how a lot of times these reports are driven by agents, even like when it's not leading up to the trade deadline, even like it. I know it happens a ton of times in baseball, like where I remember like during the Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, all that stuff was going on. That
Right.
huge year when the Phillies, we didn't know who we were getting. We finally got Harper.
Right.
But that season, a lot of this kind of stuff went on where, you'd hear one report saying, Bryce Harper's close to signing with the Dodgers. And like a lot of this stuff, I believe, comes from the agents. I believe that the agents tell these reporters that these reporters each have certain agents that they either work for or work closely with. And these agents tell them they want them to drop a story that, the X player is going to sign with this deal to kind of spark concern on the opposite teams that are maybe trying, wanting to get the same player. And to think that that's not happening is crazy because we've heard reports that it happens. So
Right.
I think that's a lot what's going on here. I don't know if it's necessarily, in this aspect with Woj and I can't think of the guy's name. Windhorst. But to me, I agree with you. How can you not be on the same page when you work for the same company?
I just remember going back to, and I wish I remembered how long ago and when it was when I last interviewed Rob Motti, and he was talking so much about the integrity of being a reporter and the integrity of vetting your sources and being able to report to your bosses who your sources were and why you had this information so that they weren't just throwing random information out there. But I guess that's the difference between working for the press. And I thought where you were going to go with that, you were talking about the agents. I was talking more about ESPN as an entertainment company, or, they're just letting these random stories run and rumors run. We joke about Vin and some of these other clickbait people out there. Maybe ESPN just wants the more clicks, and that's what it just simply comes down to. So letting them go both sides just has more retweets, more quote tweets, more comments, more article clicks, more video watches and stuff like that. And maybe that has something to do with it, but that takes away the integrity of the reporting.
You just nailed it, because I was thinking the same exact thing. We're living in a world where it's like clicks, social media. It's instant gratification. It's instant news.
We're not adverse to that either. We want more views on our shows. No. We want more clicks on our tweets. We want more people to like our content.
Absolutely.
But there's a difference between doing it the right way and doing it the wrong way, just get the clicks.
The problem is there's so many fake clicks and fake reports like Vinifit. Listen, I don't know Vin. I don't know who's behind the character. I know the Twitter. A lot of the other things too is we don't know each other. Like me and you know each other. We work with each other on the show. Obviously, we've become friends. But a lot of times on Twitter, it's just the name and a little AVI. You don't know the person behind the thing. So
absolutely.
We kind of
look. I'm refreshing Twitter constantly throughout this show today, and I was doing it yesterday, just hoping news broke. And I just saw a tweet. Austin Krell, great NBA Sixers reporter, just tweeted out that Woj had said just now on Get Up. Woj all day yesterday was talking and backing himself into a corner, saying there's no talk going on whatsoever between the two teams. Now today he's saying, I do think we'll see Brooklyn and Philadelphia talk. Says there's definite motivation on Philadelphia's side. So what's he doing? Is Wojnarowski is he only just making rumors and statements and comments so that he's easily can backtrack? Yesterday saying there's no talk and then something happens. That's kind of his way of saying, well, they weren't talking, but the last hour they talked and made it. So he's always making his rumors easily retractable. Whereas, and that's something that, look, I'm not trying to bash Adrian Wojnarowski. He's still a GOAT. He's still a great guy. I would love his job. But
Phil, we just saw an example in the NFL of how being overly aggressive on a report can get you in trouble. Adam Schefter reports that Tom Brady has retired.
Right.
An hour later, it's like Tom Brady saying, and his dad, no, nothing happened yet. Then he had to backtrack. So, there is a fine line because you can easily sit there and say, "Oh, a deal's in the final hour," and in reality, it could only be in the first 5 minutes of the deal.
And look, I'm refreshing my screen again, and literally, he just said that on Get Up 34 minutes ago is when that tweet was made. And 1 minute ago, Wojnarowski just tweeted, there's still zero talk between the Sixers and the Nets for James Harden.
I'm telling you. This is absolutely.
So basically, he's backing himself into I'm not saying he's careless. I'm just saying he's putting himself in a position where if he's wrong, it's an easy way to say, look, I wasn't wrong. It just turned out differently than I expected. I'm not saying that. I'm more calling out the fact that ESPN's letting two well-respected people, run two completely different scenarios that their sources say. One saying there's talking, one saying they're not. One saying it's almost like a locked done deal. The other one saying that there's no chance almost to an extent of it happening. And that to me is them not going to both those guys and saying, who are your sources and why is this going on? Because we can't run two separate stories 5 minutes apart.
Well, that's where, and I'm not going to lie, the fan in me and the knowledge that I have as far as what teams are going to look for in a trade. I mean, Scotty's right. But here's where I'm at. I realistically believe that the Nets, I don't care what these reports are saying because the reports they're not locked in stone. Nobody knows the truth. So they're saying, okay, the Nets have asked for Seth Curry.
Right.
That the one report that said Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, Matisse, and Simmons, right?
Right.
This is where I'm at with it. I realistically believe that the Nets have asked the Sixers for Simmons, Maxey, Matisse, and another player or a pick. I think that's what they've really asked for, and I think that's why there's all this nonsense because I think the Sixers are locked in because they don't want to give up Maxey. They don't want to overpay. So they're telling said agent, you better get this out here that this is what it is. Like there's a bunch of this stuff going on behind the scenes. Realistically, think about it, Phil. If you're the Nets, would you want to trade James Harden to the Sixers for nothing? No. You want to get the most out of what you're going to get. It's every team's goal is to maximize a trade and win a trade. So if I'm the Nets, I'm not giving the Sixers James Harden unless you give me Maxey. I mean, think about it. Think about it from a business perspective. You own a piece of shit.
You also got to think of it on both sides. Both people don't want to like this. The Nets don't want to lose James Harden.
Got that, but
for nothing. No, he's not worth all that. That's right, Drew. The way I look at it, I saw an interesting tweet earlier. So New York City, and I'm not trying to get into COVID stuff with this conversation, but New York just lifted or announced when they're lifting their mask mandate, which if they're doing that, that means their vaccination mandate might be lifted at some point. If they lift their vaccination mandate, then Kyrie Irving can play every game again. Kevin Durant comes back healthy. Does James Harden change his mind if he then realizes that because James Harden is one thing right now. James Harden wants to go somewhere or play somewhere where he can win a title. He's said it multiple times in the recent years. He doesn't want to or have to be the go-to guy on a team. That's why he's perfect at the Sixers. He could be that go-to guy to get a shot in crunch time, the last 30 seconds of a game, but the offense will still run through Joel Embiid, and Harden will be the secondary person. That's why he wanted to play with the Nets. He wanted to play with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, so he could be the next person. Not the go-to guy anymore. I mean, he's 33. His body isn't what it used to be. He's trying to extend his, life in the NBA. So does, the thought process that maybe Kyrie Irving's back to playing full-time eventually here with the Nets, maybe the Nets think that they're not as likely to lose James Harden in the offseason as it seems. So maybe that's part of the holdup, or why the Nets are holding firm on wanting Tyrese Maxey or Matisse Thybulle or whatever. They're holding firm on their high demands so that, they don't, they're still thinking in their head, Yeah, and I saw that, Scotty. I mean, he's literally tweeted like 4 different things in the last 5 minutes, and they all like contradict each other to a little extent. It's crazy. But you see what I'm getting at? Maybe they're not as concerned as we think they are about losing James Harden.
And that's and we didn't talk about that angle, and I agree with that. Let me ask you a question. What if there really if realistically, if there was a deal that was out there, and just say it was Matisse, Simmons, and Curry for Harden, don't you think that already would have went down? Don't you think?
Absolutely. That's exactly why, like, the rumors of the Halliburton and Hield for Ben Simmons. If that deal was there, it probably would have gone down already.
And that's where I'm getting at. I don't believe any of these bogus reports. I think a lot of it is so off base. I realistically believe that the Nets are holding firm, and they want either Maxey or they want a boatload, like a huge, like with that Drummond thing and all these players. Right. Like, I realistically believe you could say that the Nets don't have the cards, but at the end of the day, they do, because the Sixers are stuck with Ben Simmons, who's not playing.
Right.
So
James Harden hasn't played the last 3 games.
I got that, but I feel like that's
I know what you're getting at. Look, all this stuff makes for great conversation on shows like this. It makes great for podcasters and small level websites and stuff like that. But the NBA trade deadline, it's exciting, it's fun, but it's all 99% of the NBA trade deadline, and probably baseball trade deadline too. It's all just clickbait. I could go on after the show and put a tweet out there. Sources say, and you know what? Somebody will run with it. You know what I mean? And say that this might happen.
Well, yesterday,
but I have no sources.
There's all these
biggest sources, Vin.
Yeah, there's all these things going on now. Like, what do you call it? Like, when a spin off, like when you make fun of. So yesterday I saw some girl on Twitter said, I just gave James Harden a lap dance, and he told me he's a Sixer. Like, there's just all this kind of stuff going on, and it's funny, but it just makes you think. Like Scotty said, I saw Scotty yesterday, just like, let's just get the deal. That, like, as Sixer fans, we're so frustrated because we want Ben out of here, and James Harden is like a superstar. Like, let's just get this done. Yeah. But that's my point. If it was that easy, it would have already happened. I believe that the Nets are playing hardball, and this is just my opinion. I don't think the deal's going to get done today, and I think it's going to happen in the offseason where we get Harden. Or Harden doesn't want to come here because then he goes back to New Jersey. It's going to be one or the other.
I still think Daryl Morey has backed himself into a corner. He really has, because he's missed out on so many other look, see, we joked or talked early in the season. I know Scotty has talked with me about CJ McCollum for Ben Simmons. Everyone's like, you're taking pennies on the dollar if you make that deal. That's fine. But if just don't think about the trade. If you take CJ McCollum and put him on this Sixers squad right now, not worrying about what you had to give up, would CJ McCollum make this team better? Yes, he would.
Absolutely.
So then you look at what was traded for CJ McCollum. You're telling me that Daryl Morey couldn't have put together a package equal to without moving Ben Simmons. He could have put together a package to get CJ McCollum here. So the problem is Daryl Morey's backed himself into a corner because he's been putting all his focus, at least we think so, because that's what Windhorst, that's what Wojnarowski, that's what Shams, that's what everybody's talking about. We've heard one minor rumor about Dennis Schroeder to the Sixers, which I didn't even know he was available until that report came out, but that's the type of player we need. Yeah, exactly. Danny Green would have gotten us. Danny Green and Shake Milton, maybe a second-round pick. That would have gotten us C.J. McCollum.
Well, then the report came out yesterday about the Sixers have talked to OKC about Harris. So where's that? What's that all about?
Yeah, I mean, the Sixers have always been linked to wanting to move Harris too.
I got that.
But yeah, exactly. So what I'm saying is that according to rumors, Daryl Morey's put so much time and effort into just this James Harden deal that I'm scared that it will go down today, and it's going to go down with Tyrese Maxey involved in it. And that's what I'm scared, because he reads. He sees what's going on. He's one of the most interactive guys. Like, he likes people's tweets. He shares. He comments. He puts cryptic stuff out there. He knows that Sixers fans are going to be holding it. This is judging his whole tenure in Philly. This deal right now.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
If we give up Maxey, will I be upset? Yes. But, dude, can we be honest about it? We're getting James Harden. I think a lot of people
in the next 2 years of winning.
I think a lot of people are underestimating and undervaluing James Harden and what he could bring this team. Dude, if we get James Harden, we can win a championship this year. I mean, think about it. Like, I mean, listen, I love Maxey.
Problem is, if we get James Harden this year, and that's the only move we make, we're still pretty shorthanded on the bench. And that's the problem. That's why this deal needed to be made. I've been talking about this for a month on the show. I said it back in the beginning of January. The deal needs to get done now so that then we have time. What's my favorite word? Ancillary.
Time.
So we have time to make ancillary moves around the Ben Simmons trade. It needs to get done.
Well,
I want it done now, so then you have the rest of the day to go get Dennis Schroeder
or whoever
players, else is out there.
Are there any other players on the Nets that could help this team as far as an ancillary move in that
Patty
deal?
Mills?
Okay, so what if it is Patty Mills coming back?
If you're trading, Ben Simmons.
The deal is Ben Simmons, Maxey, and someone else in picks, and you're getting
Cam Thomas. There's another one right there.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You got to be getting more back. If you're giving away, Maxey, obviously, and that might be the holdup. Maybe they're saying Harden for Maxey and Ben Simmons, and we're saying, all right, but you got to throw in somebody else there, and they don't want to throw any. I don't know what the situation is really playing out there, but
it's hardball.
It is hardball. But like I said, Morey has backed himself up against the wall. That's why he needs to get it done, and I fear that he's going to cave at the last second, and get, Claxton, Millsap, they would all help our bench if you get James Harden. Absolutely. I knew you meant Claxton. Bruce Bowen, he would help us. It's crazy. The Nets have a lot of good ancillary pieces on their team. They just right now, because Durant and Kyrie Irving, don't play and Harden's out, they just don't have any, they're so built around their stars. You get Harden and you have Harden, Embiid, and Tobias Harris. You've got your stars. You need those side bench pieces that know their roles, and those kind of guys on the Nets know their roles. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting how that's all going to play out. But I'm just worried right now.
I have this. I'm doing this all day because I want James Harden, and I don't really care at this point. I'm at the point now where it's like at all costs, let me just get James Harden.
Yeah.
Because I believe James Harden on this team, I believe we can win a championship this season with James Harden. If you get another guy back in the deal, even so, James Harden and Embiid together, with Embiid playing at this level, and if Harden can be healthy,
yeah,
I believe we have an excellent shot. You've already
Which Indiana deal are you talking about? The one they just made with Sacramento, and getting Sabonis? Or are you talking about the one before the season for their point guard and a draft pick for Ben Simmons? Because that's I'm just curious about where you're thinking.
You've already said on multiple shows that Embiid playing at this high level, if you could fix your bench, that you could compete for a championship. Okay,
Absolutely.
So if that's the case, then why can't you compete for a championship if you get James Harden and have Embiid? Because to me, that right there, listen.
But Colin, you're saying you wouldn't forgive Morey for giving up Maxey, even if you win a title? If we win one title either this year or next year, but lose out on Maxey, I'm happy. I want the title. I don't mind selling my soul. I sold my soul for the Eagles title. I'll sell my soul for the Sixers title.
Phil, here's where I'm at. Okay, and I'm going to use another sport as an example. And I did it yesterday on one of the shows on DSM. I said it in the comments. If the Philadelphia Phillies, okay, remember back. Let's go backwards. Remember when the Phillies were looking at acquiring Roy Halladay.
Yes.
And everyone was like, okay, well, we're going to have to give up, that superstar pitcher we had in our minor leagues. And we're going to have to give up all these.
Jesse Biddle.
Okay,
we can have 20 of them back then.
No, we had prospects that everyone was like, oh, I don't want to give them up.
Remember the first Cliff Lee trade? We gave up Lou Marson, our catcher, and Luke Donald or something like that, whoever the second baseman was. And these guys were untouchables. Don Brown was untouchable.
That's where I'm going with this. This is where I'm at. Listen,
it's Scotty Comment right here.
Hear me out.
Players and young guys.
Hear me out. if you were the Phillies today and you had a chance to get a top 5 player in Major League Baseball to add to the roster we already have, and they said, well, we want Alec Bohm, we want that pitcher that's your number 2 prospect, and we want your number 3 prospect. Are you making that deal?
Absolutely.
Okay, then why are we arguing about Tyrese Maxey then? Dude, it's a top 5 player in the NBA, James Harden.
Kyle Drabeck was another one of the great young prospects that never
Get it done. That's where I'm at. Make the deal, Daryl. I'm sick of it.
Get it done. But get it done now. If you move Maxey, that's the problem. And it sucks. But the one thing I will say, Elton Brand, Daryl Morey, that combination over the last couple years, they haven't done bad drafting later in the first. I mean, they got Matisse Thybulle late in the first round. They got Tyrese Maxey late in the first round. They have done a decent job scouting these young players and picking. They're not, they don't have the Howie Roseman track record in the first round. So, if you give up Maxey in the deal, maybe you get one of the other pieces back, you make another side trade, and you win a title this year, next year, you still have the opportunity to replace Maxey with another young star down the line. I want that title. I'm selling my soul.
I get when people get stuck on a player and they say, I don't want to move them. But it's not like we're trading Maxey for a top 25 NBA player. We're trading for a top 5 guy right now. Maybe he's older and he's towards the end of his prime. But right now, James Harden, when he's healthy, is a top 5 player in this league. He makes this team.
I don't think James Harden's hurt right now. He's been out with his hamstring. They're just holding him out so he doesn't get hurt before the trade deadline. I'll say if he gets traded, he will literally be ready to go the next day. I guarantee it. Look, I just don't know what to think. I keep refreshing Twitter on the side. If I'm not looking at you, it's because I'm refreshing Twitter on the other screen. It's just
that's how I was that's how I was the year with Bryce Harper. It was every day.
Yeah. Funny, I was on a cruise when Bryce Harper signed with the Phillies, and it was the one day that we were in a port that I had cell phone service. My wife is checking in on a show. She doesn't think my soul can be sold twice. Well, I've already sold it twice. Once for the Phillies, once for the Eagles, and now I'll sell it again for the Sixers. Absolutely. No doubt about it. I was on a cruise when Bryce Harper signed, and it was the one day we were in a port where I had cell phone service. I'm sitting by the pool on the ship, and I turned on my phone, and I saw that we signed Bryce Harper, and I literally was screaming and dancing on the pool deck of that cruise ship. And there's one other guy wearing a Phillies shirt on the pool deck that day, and we were just dancing, having a great time. It was fantastic. But yeah,
dude.
Real quick, the trade deadline is it's 9:00 now. So 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 6 hours away. Yes or no, the deal is done.
Dude, I just changed my mind again. When we just did the show, I was thinking, no, it's not going to get done. I do think it's going to get done. I think we give up Maxey. I think you're right. I think Daryl Morey wants James Harden, and at the end of the day, I think it's going to get done. Now I do. And now 3 hours from now, I'm going to be like, no, it's not happening. Why? Why is it like this?
I don't know. My opinion, I just like you, I've changed my opinion 10 times every 10 minutes for the last 5 days. And George is spot on. Do you want to win now and then deal with the future in the future, or do you want to set big picture long term? And that's really what Daryl Morey you can't and Drew saying no, but
I think with Embiid you can't set a long term picture because
exactly you want to maximize Embiid. He's 28-ish years old.
You're not talking about Embiid being 22 and being you're talking about Embiid where he's at and he's fragile. So we know you have to win soon.
Yeah,
when
you got to maximize when you have
when you're in that position. Okay, and we say it all the time with baseball teams. We always say, well, the Eagles shouldn't trade for whatever Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers because they're not close to they need a lot more help.
Right.
But we would say if the Eagles were that close to a Super Bowl and we just needed one player, do you think we'd be saying go get Russ? Absolutely. Yeah. So that's the same thing here. Get Harden. Get it done, and let's go with what we got. If we don't,
I got the NBA standings up here again. After last night, the Sixers are still 2.5 games out. Okay, they're in the 5th seed. They're a game and a half up on the Raptors, who are playing great basketball right now. The Raptors, the Celtics are slowly inching their way up. They're in the 7th spot. They've won 6 in a row. Both the Raptors and the Celtics are 8-2 in their last 10 games. Both playing great. As Brooklyn continues to fall, which they're going to get back on track once Kevin Durant comes back and stuff like that. The Hornets are falling. The Hawks are slowly. They got back up in the 10 seat. There's a lot of things. But really, it comes down to, can James Harden, you look at the rest of the standings, you got the Heat are in the 1 spot, the Bucks, another hot team, 8-2 in their last 10. They're probably going to finish, in my opinion, in the 1 spot, the Bucks. You got the Bulls in the 3 spot and the Cavs. James Harden on this Sixers team right now, you make some bench improvements along the way today or during the buyout market, which if we don't make any side trades today, next week we'll be talking about the buyout market and guys that we can add to this team. James Harden could take us from that 5 seat possibly up to that 3 seat. And if you're in that 3 seat and you're playing whoever in the first round, whether it's the Raptors or the Celtics, James Harden and Joel Embiid can beat those teams. And you look at it, outside the Milwaukee Bucks.
Take you to the 1 seed.
Well, yeah, he really could. Well, there's only 28 games.
You're only 2.5 games out.
Yeah, but it's the Bucks are really that good. And now that they're healthy and all of a sudden Giannis has developed the shot, and he's actually worked on his shot where Ben Simmons hasn't, and it's crazy because you look at it, James Harden, that's enough. That's enough to beat this East in a best-of-7 series. So I do the deal. No, we're not going for Russ, even if it's, ever. We're never going for Russ, according to George. I don't know. All right. So, again, I'm refreshing my screen one more time. If it hasn't happened yet, we're going to move on for the topic. Someone responded to Kevin Agani, I'm not trading Embiid for Harden. I don't think that's a comment. I don't know why that's the first thing that popped up on my screen. Who's even mentioning trading Joel Embiid? Yeah. Anyway, so real quick, before we get to the Super Bowl, I want to talk for like 5 minutes. Not even. A little fun topic here. All right. So last night, surfing the TV channels, and there's AEW wrestling on. There was the Olympics, which are just god awful this year. I can't. I'm usually an Olympic fan. I can't get myself motivated to watch the Olympics this year. Okay, so I'm surfing through, looking for something to watch on TV, and The Fugitive was on AMC. And I put out a tweet last night that it's an underrated movie. And I got all these comments, all these likes, all these retweets, all these everything about The Fugitive. And it got me thinking, how underrated I'm assuming you've seen The Fugitive with that fantastic cast.
I've seen it like 25 times. Are you kidding me?
At least?
It's probably the best movie one of the best I've ever seen. Yes.
Absolutely. So Harrison Ford, Tommy Lee Jones, Joe Pantoliano, very underrated actor he is. Great movie. And I got a lot of comments from people saying that it's not underrated. It's rated greatly. And so I'm like, is it though? Because when I hear people mention their top 10 movie list of all time, their top 20 movie list of all time, it's never in there. So I went and I looked this morning. So I went on Rotten Tomato, and they have their top 100 movies of all time. It's not on there. It's got a 96% rating on the tomato meter, like their official reviewers, but their audience score is only 89%. I went on to IMDb, and they have an article of the top 100 movies listed all time based off of ratings, Oscars, and things like that. Not like fan opinion. It's not in their top 100 movies of all time on IMDb. So to me, that tells me that The Fugitive is an underrated movie. And it's a movie that stands the test of time. It doesn't have, like some movies, like 20 years from now, are just not relevant. That movie can still be relevant today and would still be successful today if it was released in movies today. And it's a fantastic movie. Great acting, a great story. I just love that movie so much.
I actually went back after watching the movie years ago and read the book. And it's definitely,
I didn't even know there was a book on it. I know there was the TV show in the 60s, but
it's definitely the movie that obviously to me it's the story. But yeah, the actors. I mean, you mentioned Harrison Ford. That was Harrison Ford in his prime.
Yes.
And Tommy Lee Jones, probably talk about an underrated actor.
Absolutely.
Tommy Lee Jones is probably one of the most underrated actors, out there. Like, you don't hear his name all the time. Like, oh, Tommy Lee Jones. Like, but yeah, he's up there, man. everything that he did, kind of turned to gold.
Look, I'm still getting comments. I just got a comment on Twitter from my post. It was huge and people love it. Never met one person that said they didn't love it. It's Big Stevie W on Twitter, and he's probably not watching the show right now, but it's like, yeah, it's true. But 89% on Rotten Tomatoes, that means George, I love you, buddy. That's why I switched to the water glass now. All right.
I'm not a Rotten Tomatoes fan.
Yeah, I'm not either, but I'm using them as examples to fuel
Rotten
my
Tomatoes is just like Google reviews. I mean, you can get a bunch of people that just have an agenda and go on there and say, I don't like something. It's the same thing. That's how Rotten Tomatoes is to me.
I agree. But even me, I'll even say that I'm at fault. I love this movie. And I watch it. It's right there with Shawshank in the sense when it's on, if there's not a Sixers or Phillies or Eagles game on, I'm watching it.
I wish I would have known that it was on.
If I rank like my top 10 movies of all time, normally I forget about The Fugitive and don't put it in my list. But it probably should be in my list of top 10 movies.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can make
George saying that he doesn't like Tommy Lee Jones as an actor. He does only look grumpy all the time. That is very, very true. Very true. Yeah, I don't know. I love the movie. It's something that I remember watching with my dad as a kid. And, I just wanted to bring up the fact that I had Tommy Lee Jones in No Country for Old Men. Phenomenal performance. There you go. So George and Colin are kind of contradicting each other there with those Tommy Lee Jones comments there. I just wanted to bring it up.
Who cares if he's grumpy? He's an actor.
I might do a special, I'll bring back Trending for 4 Quarters. It's now, instead of every Wednesday night, it's just a pop-up show for me. One day, I'm going to have to grab everybody that wants to get involved in a movie. We'll just do a whole show, a random pop-up show, just talking great movies. And I'll bring up my top 10 movies, and you guys will bash or succeed or like what I feel are my top 10 movies of all time.
We're going to battle it out.
Yeah, I got to make graphics and slideshows for that and everything. I think I'll invite Colin on it. George can come on if he wants. Anybody that wants to come on and talk movies, we'll make that a big, big spectacle one day. I love it.
I'm down. Just let me know.
Yeah. All right, let's get to football talk. Before we get to the Super Bowl, I want to bring up really quickly a story that in the NFL, there's been a lot of talk with the Brian Flores and all that with the race and the coaching staff and stuff like that and the coaching world. But the one topic this week that hasn't gotten much press is the Alvin Kamara situation. Okay, and I don't want to spend 20 minutes talking about this, but what I want to talk about is the fact that the NFL, and they like to, I've heard the term used a lot, protect the shield of the NFL, and that Roger Goodell will do anything to protect the shield of the NFL and the image of the NFL. So Alvin Kamara, obviously, if you don't know by now, I don't know how you don't know. Well, probably because it's never talked about yet. Saturday night before the Pro Bowl, assault was involved in an assault and battery of a man at a club in Vegas. And, there's proof, there's video proof, which hasn't been released yet, that he met the description, him and his group of people beat up a guy. Whatever the situation was that caused the fight, you got conflicting reports. The guy saying that they start the fight, Alvin Kamara's group saying that they were provoked, whatever it may be. But the fact that the police, the Vegas police, reported to the NFL security team that Kamara was going to be arrested for this battery charge. And the NFL security team, whoever was in charge of this at the Pro Bowl, reported back that he was already on the field warming up for the Pro Bowl. So they said, fine, we'll wait till after the game to arrest him. You're telling me that the NFL knew that there was a potential battery charge on one of its players, one of their star players, which they need in that Pro Bowl to sell tickets for ratings and whatnot. So they're like, all right, we'll deal with it in 4 hours. Is that not some of the most absolute BS that you've ever heard? Because to me, I've wanted to bring it up every day this week, and I just keep pushing it off to the end of the show, and then we don't get to it because we're talking so many other topics. But I had to bring up how much total, complete, absolute BS that is.
Dude, it's bad. I mean, I don't know how you can even, how can you do that with a straight face if you're the NFL? First of all, what if you're the family of this person that was beat up?
Absolutely.
Honestly, I would be I would sue the NFL. Honestly, to me, it's an absolute atrocity. I agree, dude. That's he should have been arrested then and there. Like, dude, you committed battery. To me, I'm like speechless because I really didn't know much about it.
Guilty, so I understand that part. He didn't commit it technically in the court of law yet. He's being accused of it.
Okay.
And there's very firm evidence that he did it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
If I had a hit and run DUI and I was at my job and it wasn't proven yet, but I was accused of it and the police were going to arrest me, would my job say, no, let him work 8 hours and then you can arrest him?
Yeah.
No. Or are they going to come to my job and they're going to arrest me? Okay. Yeah. Well, then that's bullshit. I don't care.
Absolutely.
I don't care if it's the NFL. It's absolute bullshit.
Absolutely. And it really pissed me off.
Calling them out. And you're right. It's not even being publicized. Like, I didn't know about it until someone sent me an article.
I think you texted me about, did you hear about this? I think you texted me Tuesday night about it. I'm like, yeah, how did you not know about this? I'm like, because they're not talking about it. No one's talking about it. And I think it's complete and total BS that nobody's talking about it at all. I really do.
I agree, man. It's that, I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like, it actually just proves my point about how the NFL,
George's point is spot on. They didn't want it being talked about. But you know what? You made yourself look worse by ignoring it, by letting this happen. It's do you want to deal with the instant, overshadowing of the game to that on Sunday, or do you want to deal with the bad publicity that you let this guy play because you didn't want it to overshadow the game? And that to me is total bull.
It's disgusting.
Total, yeah, it's awful.
You used the word at the beginning of the show. You actually called the show integrity. Well, this is an absolute
issue.
Like, red flag on the NFL's integrity. And we've talked about it when we talked about Brian Flores. We've talked about it on how the NFL picks and chooses and cherry picks how they want to handle different situations compared to what the situation is. And that, to me, is why the NFL is a joke. Like, you could say that Roger Goodell has done a good job as commissioner, and he has. He does what they want. But my point is that when it comes to discipline, the NFL is so inconsistent. And so are all of these leagues. It's not just the NFL. It's baseball. It's hockey. They're all inconsistent. They follow different rules for different folks, and it's not right. And this right here, you're not talking about like somebody that like stole money, dude. He beat somebody up to the point of, the guy was almost dead.
Yep.
I mean, to me, that right there is a serious issue.
And I understand what George is saying here. It's the advertisers and the product. I get all that. It doesn't make it
right. Doesn't make it right. Yeah, and we can call it out. We have a right to call it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Look. I'm going to make a joke about the situation here, and it's kind of obviously no one cares about this situation because we've gone from having double-digit viewers to single-digit viewers since we switched the topics to Alvin Kamara on social media right now. So obviously people don't care about this topic because as soon as we started talking about it, everyone clicked off on the screen. That's how, that's a problem right there.
It is a definite problem.
Just to say, things like this happening are not gonna stop talking about these kind of situations and issues just because people stop watching, because there are issues that need to be discussed. And it's, like you said, disgusting that this went down, and totally lack of integrity by the NFL. I don't care about the money aspect of it. Total lack of integrity by them. But that's all. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on it because obviously no one wants to talk about it, but we do have a big game. So, hopefully nothing happens. Yeah. You're an idealist. He's a realist. Absolutely. So this next topic, I actually already know because we've kind of had talks off camera about it, me and George. So I know where he feels on this one. So the Super Bowl. I was thinking, what topic can we talk about today? Tomorrow's show is going to be, 99.9, even if Ben Simmons and James Harden trade gets happen. Tomorrow's show, I got some guests lined up. Aaron Bell from the Philadelphia Sports Network, Trev from Ref the District podcast. I got a bunch of guys. We're going to come on. We're just going to talk nothing but the Super Bowl, betting, everything Super Bowl related tomorrow. But I needed another topic for today's show. And I want to talk about today the path to the Super Bowl for the Bengals versus the Rams. And which way, it kind of correlates with the Sixers and what, going all in for James Harden and all. The Rams, They had last first round pick was in 2016. They don't have another one until 2024. Okay. They've traded every asset they have to get to the point to win a Super Bowl now, to go all in this year on a Super Bowl. Yeah, cycle back to the Fugitive. That'll bring them all back. Dude, literally, I can't believe how many people responded to that tweet yet last night. I really can't. The Bengals, on the other hand, they've drafted. They were patient. Taylor, their head coach Taylor, 2-14 his first year, 4-12 their second year. They didn't give up on him. They got Joe Burrow, they got Jamar Chase, Higgins. They built through the draft. So you got one team in the Bengals that have slowly built their team up and given their coach time to get to this point through draft picks, through building a culture, but building that team, versus the Rams that just keep going all in. And if they win a Super Bowl, it pays off. But what's the future look like for the Rams? Who knows? What side of the equation do you think is the right way to go? The slow build to maybe win a Super Bowl, but have consistent winning maybe long term, or going all in to win that one game. And if not, then you fail and you're back to square one all over again.
Well, I think it's a hard question to answer, because I think both ways can create success. I think if you look at like the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles, for example,
right,
they kind of used both ways to get to the Super Bowl.
True.
A lot of their team was built through the draft. Obviously they drafted Carson. We hate Carson, most of us, but we have to admit that he had a big part in that team that year.
Absolutely.
I mean, he had an MVP type season, so he was drafted. A lot of their players were drafted, but don't forget, a lot of the Eagles' success that year did come from free agency. I mean, Howie Roseman won Executive of the Year for those moves that he made. A lot of them were smaller moves, not even big moves. But if you're going to look at it from a perspective of what's the better way to build, it depends on what your plan is. Do you want to win a championship now, or do you want to be good and compete long term? Because if you looked at teams like, obviously the Patriots are the model team, if you want to look at, obviously, because they're the GOATs of it. They had the GOAT coach, they had the GOAT quarterback, and Bill Belichick's plan was always every year just draft new players. Not necessarily star players, because obviously look at the Patriots. When they had success, a lot of their draft picks were late draft picks. They weren't getting, the top 5 pick, because they're good every year.
Yep.
But they were able to kind of do the middle ground where they draft, but they also sign new free agents every year that help their team. So I think there's two ways to look at it. I don't know where you stand, because I'm kind of in the middle.
First off, on the Patriots example, it helps when your 1 6th-round draft pick becomes the GOAT.
Well, yeah.
If Tom Brady never panned out to be the greatest quarterback of all time, or they stuck with Drew Brees when he came back from his injury, the whole story might be different. Yeah, that might be different. But I agree here, with where is it? This comment here: key free agent additions, but you need the core. I agree with that. George, everything panned out perfectly in 2017, and he brings up the dream team in another comment. Look, it depends on how you value a Super Bowl or a championship in whatever sport. Are you okay with one title if it means 5 to 10 years of suffering? We won the World Series only once with the Phillies, and then they were chasing after that. And now look at us. They never won again.
I think
and the Phillies are in a pretty dreadful spot right now.
I think if you look at the Rams, though, I don't necessarily see it being like a one and done type team, because they did get Matt Stafford, Stafford's still fairly young. I mean, he's not Joe Burrow.
34, something
he's 33.
Like that.
He's still got a good 4 or 5 years left. So the Rams could win multiple titles. They're set up at least short term to win a couple titles. It's not like they're going to just win this year or be in the Super Bowl and then fall off the face of the earth. It's not. Right. Let's not act like none of their team was built through the draft. They did draft Aaron Donald.
Right.
Obviously very high. A lot of their defense kind of was built through the draft. I just think that when we look at the Rams, it's that whole first round pick thing. Now that to me is an intriguing question, because are you better off drafting a first-round pick that you don't know might be a bust or be good, or are you better off pawning that first-round pick off for a player that you know is great? Like, the perfect example is Jalen Ramsey. Like, I remember when the Rams made that trade, and everyone was saying, oh, the Eagles, they would be crazy if they made that trade. Dude, I would have made that trade any day of the week. Jalen Ramsey is a shutdown cornerback for 10 years if you lock him up contract-wise. Could you imagine if the Eagles had Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay? You're talking, you wouldn't even care if you had Jim Schwartz or, Jonathan Gannon at the helm. It wouldn't matter because you'd have two of the best cornerbacks in the league. Yeah. So when that happens, like, I'm like, man, we could talk about it with Rager. What if the Eagles traded that Rager pick and traded for a wide receiver like Amari Cooper? Would they be better off? Absolutely. Like, that's where I'm at. So I think it's easy to say, well, the Rams, like, they're not set up for long term, but they just took a different philosophy and showed that maybe first round picks are more worth. Maybe you're better off getting a known product as opposed to taking somebody that you don't know is going to pan out. Because
and that's where I stand. I mean, I understand people like George, and there's a lot of them that say it. Giving yourself more chances by building slowly. I understand that, but the problem is, look, and this is a morbid way to look at it. It really is. I won a championship every year, obviously, but I'd rather have one than a chance at maybe winning. Give me as close to a guarantee, because I know there's no guarantees, but give me as close of a guarantee as possible to win a title. If I got a 90% chance of a title by going all in for one season versus a 50% chance of a title for 5 years, I'd rather take that 90% chance. Because look, I'll be honest, you just never. Life's short, life's precious. You don't know. I won a title in my lifetime for everything. Somebody. I'm gonna check, even though I can't buy it as proof unless it's for real. Someone's commenting that Harden's been traded, but I don't believe it. It is not on Twitter yet. It's not been reported. So I'm not putting your comment. I'm not putting your comment up on the screen because there's no proof anywhere that it's been done. Well, you're just another VIN. That's all I'm going to say. Just another VIN.
Well, Phil, so the Rams are obviously doing something right. They've been in the Super Bowl 2 of the last 4 years. I mean, we could call an ace and a spade.
Right.
Like I said, they were there. They're there again. So they're obviously, like I said, it all depends on what you look at with first-round picks. Because now the more I think about it, I've thought about this with the Eagles. That's why I wouldn't be opposed to the Eagles trading one of those first-round picks for Calvin Ridley. Because my point is we're another player, like a star corner. When you can get a known commodity for a first-round pick, sometimes, like I said, you got to look at the track record of the Eagles drafts.
Yep.
Would you rather have any other player, or would you rather have Jalen Reagor? Let's answer that question. Because look how Jalen Reagor turned out.
Look, it just comes down to that I want titles. Look, like I said, it's morbid. Look, I look at my dad. My dad passed away at a very young age in 1999. And he was just like me, an overly passionate Philly sports fan. And I go back to 1993, the first time I saw my dad cry over a sporting event when Joe Carter hit that home run. And who was the big rumor that we were trying to trade for at the 93 trade deadline? Do you remember?
93 trade deadline.
Randy Johnson was this close to becoming a Philly in 1993. And him and Kurt Schilling went on to win a World Series together as a pair, a 1-2 punch with Arizona. All of a sudden, Randy Johnson, you got a fire alarm going off in your house there?
Yeah, they're testing it.
You got to get up. I want to see your fire safety drill. You got to get up and stop, drop, and roll now on screen.
My dog's freaking out now.
Obviously, Randy Johnson on that Phillies team in 93 might put us over the top over the Red Sox or the Blue Jays. You know what I mean? And he never got to see another report. We got more reports. Casey, I trust you, Casey. Let's see what you got. Brooklyn Nets guard wants to be traded. Yeah. I hear you on that. Look, I'm always the man that wants the title now because I don't know if I'll be watching sports next year. You never know what's going to go on. You could have a lockout. You could have a strike. You just might not be here. Who knows? Win the title. Go all in now. always. And that's the path that I prefer.
I agree. I think that's what makes the Super Bowl intriguing, though, because you have two opposite sides of the spectrum. So it's going to be interesting.
Like you said, let's talk about this if the Rams win the Super Bowl, and if they don't win the Super Bowl. So we will talk about this. Actually, it's a perfect topic to re-bring up on Overreaction Monday. Whether it's Overreaction, the Rams got it wrong going all in, or Overreaction Monday, the Rams, every team should pull the Rams and do that kind of thing. There's that. That's a great start to Overreaction Monday when we break down the Super Bowl victory of. I guess I'm slowly leaning more and more towards the Rams. It just seems like every day as we get closer to Friday, I just get closer. Look, this is the last time you're going to be on the show. We got 4 minutes left on the show. I need your prediction for Super Bowl Sunday. Do you have the prediction ready, or do you need to text me later and I'll bring it up on the show tomorrow?
No, I have my prediction ready.
Okay.
So I have Rams 34, Bengals 27.
34,
final.
27. I am writing that down. Okay.
And
I am leaning towards the Rams. I don't actually know if it's going to be that high of a scoring game.
The Rams. So
yeah, I'm not really sure if it's going to be that high scoring of a game, honestly, just yet. I'm not really sure where I stand. But anyway, I got one quick other topic. I want to, you guys do a great job of, discussing these kind of things on your Sports and Metal show. But yesterday it was reported that former Phillies baseball player Jeremy Giambi passed away, young age of 47. Like I just said with the whole morbid statement, you never know if you've got tomorrow. So I just want to bring up, a little, make sure everybody knew that this happened. And, remember, if everybody doesn't know him from the Phillies, everybody will remember him from that famous Derek Jeter flip in the playoffs when he played for Oakland. He was a really good baseball player. Obviously, there's a lot of steroids, linked to Jeremy Giambi, brother of Jason Giambi, another story, but Yankee great there. Trivia question. Do you know who the Phillies traded to get Jeremy Giambi?
Damn.
Come on, you're supposed to be a baseball guy. I knew this right away.
I'm trying to remember.
You let me down, Jason. You let me down. John Mayberry.
John Mayberry.
He was a bad outfielder. Really bad outfielder. But anyway, Jeremy Giambi was actually a guy that had some potential to be a decent baseball player. Whether it was steroid related or not, I don't know. In 2001 with the Oakland Athletics, he led them. That was the year of the Jeter flip. I mean, he played in 125 games, batted .283, hit 12 home runs, 57 RBIs. 2002, he hit 20 home runs combined with Oakland and Philly before we got him. And played in 130 games that year almost. He was a good baseball player. And it's really sad to see people, unfortunately pass away at such a young age. So, unfortunately, we'll end the show on that somber
We also had Gerald Williams, too.
Who?
Gerald Williams passed away from the Yankees.
I did not see that.
Yeah, that was 2 days prior.
Oh. I don't know why that didn't come across my screen there. You bring this up here. Yeah, no, I'm not even. I just Google searched it. And I don't even say it. So, interesting. Anyway, just a sad thing. The strip club comments for James Harden just keep rolling in. I love it. Absolutely. I've already called my boy Dean over at Club Risque. He's got a special table reserved for him. Definitely, if he comes to town. Definitely, no doubt about it. Anyway, thank you everybody who tuned in. This is a fantastic show on YouTube. A lot of new listeners, a lot of new followers. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and like button on these videos. The way we can continue growing this morning show, the more people that subscribe on YouTube, the more people that hit the thumbs up, the more people that'll tune in. Jason, sorry, you had something there?
Yeah, I wanted to know. Does it happen?
Does it happen?
No? Today.
No.
I want to know yes or no. What do you think?
Okay. Here's my answer. Yes, it happens if Tyrese Maxey's involved in the deal. If Tyrese Maxey's not involved in the deal, no, it does not happen today.
Okay.
That's the least direct answer that I can give you.
That's exactly where I'm at.
Yeah.
So.
If Maxey's included, it happens. If he's not included, there's no way he gets the deal done. And it's a shame because I'd hate to lose Mad Maxey. I love the guy. Anyway, again, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for popping in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, everywhere you go. I am Phil Stiefel at Beard of Knowledge on Twitter. This is Jason Voorhees to my side here at Mustang3651. Also, make sure you follow his Sports and Metal podcast page as well. Great show last night with that. You and Aaron did a great job again last night. We're back tomorrow morning. Aaron Bell, Trev from Ref the District. We're going to have a great show talking nothing but football. I'm sure somehow James Harden talk will get thrown in there somehow. I'm not sure how, but I'm going to try to avoid it tomorrow. Everybody have a great day today. Again, we're brought to you here at DSM Media and Trading in the AM by Manscaped, leader in men's grooming products. Check them out, manscaped.com. Use promo code DSM at checkout for 20% off, free shipping, and to let them know Team DSM sent you. Hey, we are now down to 5.5 hours to the trade deadline. Will James Harden be a Sixer by 3:01 today? We'll find out in 5.5 hours. And until the meantime, as we end every show,
go Birds.
Go Birds.